Okay, let's start. Today I am going to talk about only summary of a poem, that is a photograph. Okay, I am going to talk about only the summary because I am going to cover the Hornbill, the whole book. Okay, so I am going to talk about only summary. A photograph. A photograph. Today I am going to talk about only summary because I am going to cover the whole book Hornbill. Okay, so I am going to talk about the summary only. A photograph written by Charlie Towson. A photograph is written by Charlie Towson. The poem is a tribute to a okay, photograph. Photograph written by Charlie Towson. Okay, I'm going to talk about the summary. Okay, if I talk about the summary, then one point is that it is a tribute to the poet's mother. It is a tribute to poet's mother. She is looking at an old photograph of her mother, which is a frame of cardboard. The picture has three girls in which, so it is about a picture. It is talking about a picture. Okay, the middle one is the oldest and tallest. It is her mother. So it is a picture. It is a picture. It is really a picture where there is three girls. Okay, where there is three girls. The middle one is tall, and it is she is poet's mother. Okay. It is her mother when she was 12 years old. Also, beside her on both sides, these two are her cousins, Betty and Dolly. One's name is Betty, and another's name is Dolly, who are holding her hands and are younger than her. They went for paddling on a beach holiday. Her uncle took the photograph. Then the poet could not help but notice her mother's sweet face. The sea touched her terribly transient feet, which depicted that she changed over the years and the sea remained the same. After 20-30 years, her mother would laugh at the photograph. She would make the poet look at the photograph and tell her how their parents would dress them up for the beach holiday. The beach holiday was her mother's favorite past memories, while her laugh was the poet's favorite memory. Both of them lost something which they cherished a lot and yet cannot live that moment again. Okay, so this was the poem. Next, I am coming to the We Are Not Afraid to Die. It is written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. Okay. We are not afraid to die if we all can be together. Let's talk about the summary. We are not afraid to die if we all be together. It is written by who has written this? Tell me who has written this. It has been written by Jordan Jordan Cook, and Alan St. Okay, so let's, without any wasting any time, let's start the summary. We Are Not Afraid to Die, written by Gordon Cook, is a story about 37-year-old businessman who is the narrator of the story. So it's about a businessman who is 37 years old, who is the narrator of the story, and he is the narrator of the story. His wife named Mary and two children, Jonathan, aged 6, and Susan, aged 7. So here we find that it is a businessman, and he has a wife and he has 2 children. So it is a businessman, and it is Mary and their two children, Jonathan, and another is Susan. Okay, age 7. He and his wife both dream of a voyage around the world on their ship Wave Walker. So the name of their ship is Wave Walker. Okay, Wave Walker. It is their ship, Wave Walker, which is 23 meter long. It is 23 meter long and 30-ton wooden hull, just like that of the famous Captain James Cook. The whole family started sailing from Plymouth, England on July 1976. The initial phase of the 3-year-long journey was from Africa to Cape Town. It was pleasant. While heading east along with 2 newly hired crewmen, strong waves hit them and their survival became a question. The story tells us about how they fought each day and survived till the end. Okay, so this was We Are Not Afraid to Die. Next, I am coming to discovering that the saga continues. Discovering that the saga continues. Discovering that the saga continues. Written by A.R. Williams. Discovering that the saga continues. It is written by A.R. Williams. Let's talk about the summary. Discovering that the saga continues is the chapter that gives us an in-depth insight of Tutankhamun. So it is a chapter, okay? It is about Tutankhamun. Okay, it is a story about Tutankhamun, the last ruler of powerful Pharaoh dynasty in Egypt. He was a teenager when he died, and his death was a mystery. Some speculated that he was murdered. He ruled in Egypt and its empire for centuries. In 1922, his tomb was discovered by Howard Carter, a British archaeologist. After 80 years, he was taken from his resting place for CT scan, which offers to solve the mystery of his life and death by creating a forensic reconstruction. Tut's father and grandfather, Amenhotep III, was a very powerful pharaoh who ruled over a period of 40 years. His son Amenhotep IV thrived him and began the strangest period in the history of Egypt. He promoted the worship of Aten, the sun dish. He changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning servant of the Athens. He also moved the religious capital from Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten called Amarna. Further, he attacked Amun, a god, smashed his images, and closed his temples. Another mysterious ruler succeeded him who died soon. Next, Tutankhamun, also known as Tut, sat on the throne and ruled for 9 years. He worshipped god Amun in the old ways. However, He ruled in his uh, he prompted worship of he changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning servant of the Athens. He also moved the religious capital from Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten called Amarna. Further, he attacked Amun, a god, smashed his images, and closed his temples. Another mysterious ruler succeeded him who died soon. Next, Tutankhamun, also known as Tut, sat on the throne and ruled for 9 years. He worshipped god Amun in the old ways. However, he died mysteriously. When Tut's mummified body was discovered, he was laid with lots of gold, wealth, and everyday items like a bronze razor, games, clothes, cases of food, and wine. Carter discovered him after searching for many years. After researching on the treasures, he decided to investigate his 3 nested coffins. Some parts of the treasures in the tomb were already looted. His tomb was rock cut 26 feet underground, which had all paintings. On the outer coffin, Tut's face was gilded. In the first coffin, he found the garlands of olives, lotus petals, and cornflowers. It showed that he was buried in the months of March or April. The third and final coffin put Carter into trouble. The resins used to cement Tooth to the bottom of the solid gold coffin was hardened enough, making it impossible to move. He put the coffin in the sun for several hours in hope for the resins to loosen up, but it didn't work. Finally, he removed the resins with the help of chisel and hammer. Carter felt that he didn't have any other choice as to if he hadn't cut the mummy from limb to limb, thieves would have looted the gold. His men first removed his head, then they cut off every joint. After removing the body parts, they placed it on the layer of sand in a wooden box and put it at original place. In 1968, the mummy was x-rayed by an anatomy professor, revealed few facts. His breastbone and front ribs were missing. Later, on January 5th, 2009, Tooth was taken for CT computed tomography scan, which takes hundreds of X-rays and creates a 3-dimensional image. The night of the scan, the workmen carried his body from the tomb in a box. They climbed ramp and stairs and lifted it on a hydraulic trailer that held the scanner. The scanner stopped working, which paused the procedure. After using a pair of spare hands, the scan was finally done. After 3 hours, his body was taken back to his tomb, where his body is resting in peace. So this was Discovering Earth. The saga continues. Next, we will read out the Labram Top, written by Ted Hughes. Okay, the Labram Top. Labram Top, written by Ted Hughes. By Ted Hughes. Okay. The poem starts with a description of the laboratory whose top was still and silent. So the poem starts with a description of laboratory. Perhaps so it is a laboratory. Okay. Whose top was still and silent. Its top was still and silent. And it has lips. It has lips. Lips had turned yellow and seeds and fallen down. It was a daytime in the month of September. So it's a September month. September month, when the tree was standing still and death-like, the lifeless tree becomes alive by the arrival of the goldfinch birds. So a bird, it's come here and it becomes alive. How? I'm talking to you. She came to feed her younger ones who are on the thickness of the branch. The tree is her shelter. She arrives at the end of the branch with a chirping sound. She further moves to the other side of the branch with rapid and precautionary movement like lizard. As soon as she arrives, her younger ones start chirping like a machine and vibrating and flapping the wings. The death-like tree becomes alive and it trembles and shakes. After feeding them, she flies to other side of the branch. Her dark-colored face with the yellow body was barely visible as she vanished behind the yellow leaves. She flew away in the sky, leaving the tree death-like. So when she sorry. So when she flew away, after feeding them, she flies to other side of the branch. Her dark-colored face with the yellow body was barely visible. She vanished behind the wall, behind the yellow leaves. She flew away in the sky, leaving the tree death-like again. So it was laburnum tree. Now we will talk about the voice of the rain. The Voice of the Rain. It is written by Walt Whitman. So let's talk about the summary. The Voice of the Rain. In the poem, the poet asks the soft falling shower, "Who are you?" To which she replies that she is the poem of earth. So, Voice of the Rain, when our poet asks the rain, so it is C. I'm doing something else. Watch photo. So it was raining. It was like rain. Okay. And then the poet asks the falling shower, "Who are you?" Who are you? To which she replies that she is the poem of earth. She is the poem of earth. It is a strange thing for the rain to reply to the poet. The rain told the poet that she cannot be touched as she rises in form of water vapor in the sky from the land and the bottomless sea. So the rain told the poet that she cannot be touched when she rises. So it rises like a vapor. It rises like a vapor. In the escape from the land and the bottomless sea. It changes its shape, yet it remains the same. The vapor changes into clouds due to condensation. It falls back on the surface of the earth to provide water to the drought-prone areas and to beautify the earth, its birthplace. It provides life to the seeds inside the earth and helps them grow. The rain doesn't care if anyone bothers about her deeds or not. She completes her work and does come back home. The poet also compares the rain with a song as they both share a common journey. The song originates from the heart of the singer, travels across to fulfill the aim, and comes back with due love for the singer, its originator. So it was the voice of the rain. Childhood. Now we will talk about childhood. Let's talk about the summary. Childhood summary. In this, this is a poem written by Marcus Nathan. Marcus Nathan. Childhood, written by Marcus Nathan. In the poem, the poet wonders when he lost his childhood and the innocence he had. He became conscious that no longer sees the world. In the poem, the poet wonders when he lost his childhood and the innocence he had. He became, so it's about childhood and innocence. So childhood symbolizes innocence. Okay, childhood symbolizes innocence. Innocence, he became conscious that he no longer sees the world as he did earlier, and he can sense the hypocrisy in people. So now that he is out of innocence. That means hypocrisy. He is seeing hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. He became conscious that he no longer sees the world as he did earlier, and he can sense the hypocrisy in people. He recalled many instances in his life when he could have lost his childhood. He wondered if it was the day he ceased to be 11, or he realized that hell and heaven didn't exist in this world. Hell and heaven didn't exist in this world, and no one could find them in the geography. Next, he talks about the possibility when he realized that adults are not what they seem to be, and they are hypocrites. So childhood is equal to innocent, and adults is equal to hypocrite. You have to remember these two things. Okay, very important. They talk and preach of love, but their actions doesn't say so. Was it the day when he realized that his mind was his own and capable of producing his own thoughts? No one could own that, and he is an individual with his particular personality. In the last stanza, he talks about the whereabouts of his childhood. He concludes that it had gone to some forgotten place, and it can only be found in the innocent face of an infant. So he concludes that it had gone. So childhood, that means innocence. So innocence is gone. It can only be found in the innocent face of an infant. So this was childhood. Now let's talk about the adventure. Giant Narlikar. So now we are going to talk about the adventure written by Jayant Narlikar. Professor Gaitonde was traveling from Pune to Bombay. So it's about Professor Gaitonde. Okay, Professor Gaitonde. So he is traveling from Pune to Bombay via the Jijamata Express, a train which was faster than the Deccan Queen. As he was crossing towns, villages, he met a man named Khan Sahib who talked about his business and chatted about several things. They got off at Victoria Terminus station, which was neat and clean. It had British officers, Parsis, and Anglo-Indian staff all around. He was confused as to how the East India Company was ruling the country, as according to his facts, they fled away after the events of 1857. So our Gaitonde, he is dreaming. You may say he is dreaming. So what happened after 1857? He is dreaming that the East India Company had fled away after the events of 1857. We went to the Hornbil road and noticed that the shops were different. He entered the Forbes building and inquired about Mr. Binay Gaitonde, but as checked by the receptionist, no such man had ever worked there. He went to the town hall and sat in the reading room. He took 5 books related to the history and decided to go through them one by one and check how the facts had changed. He started investigating from the period of Ashoka to the Third Battle of Panipat. According to the 5th volume, Bhaushahevanchi Bhakkar, he found out that Marathas had won the Battle of Panipat and spread their influence all over India. After that, he was confused as it was different from that he knew so far. After the victory, India was moved to the path of democracy. There were no longer any kings ruling and democratic parties had been set up. The professor started liking India as he kept reading further about it. It was different from the one he believed he saw. This country knew how to stand on its feet, and it was no longer slave under the white man. As he was going through the book, the librarian told him to finish since they were closing the library. It was 8 o'clock. He asked about carrying the books with him, as he would return the next morning, and slipped the Bhakkar book into his left pocket. He checked into a guest house and had his dinner. He decided to walk towards Azad Maidan. He noticed a large crowd of people going towards a pandal. A lecture was going on, but he noticed something unusual. The presidential chair was empty. The speaker was talking and the crowd was continuously moving inside and outside. He could not control himself and moved towards the stage and sat on the chair. The crowd was taken aback and started asking him to get up and move away. He tried to talk to them, but they started throwing several objects at him, such as tomatoes, eggs, etc. Soon the crowd moved towards him to push him away, and he was nowhere to be seen. Next, he woke up in a hospital bed and saw Rajendra in front of him. He narrated the whole sequence of events that took place, and Rajendra listened to him amazed. The professor was confused as to where he was and if he had been in a coma for the past 2 days. What was the experience he just had? Was it real or not? Rajendra explained to him that it happened because of 2 theories: catastrophe theory and lack of determinism in quantum theory. Catastrophe theory states that a small change in any situation can result in a shift in behavior. In reality, the Marathas lost their leader Bhau Sahib and Biswarao, and hence they lost the battle. But Professor saw that the bullet missed and Bhausha was not dead. Professor then showed him the torn page of the Bakhar book that he had in his pocket. Rajendra read it carefully and told him that realities can be different for different people. What he thought had happened is a catastrophic experience. Rajendra told him that in case of electrons, one cannot predict which path of electron takes at a point of time. He told him that it is the lack of determinism in quantum theory and explained to him what it meant. In one word, the electron may be found here, and in another it may be found in another place. But in the third world, it it may be at different locations. Once the observer knows about the correct placing of the electrons in every world, it might happen that an alternative world exists at the same time. Hence, the professor was in two different worlds at the present time. He had real life experience in an alternative reality and he came back from another world. Both the worlds had different histories and different sets of events. The professor wanted to know why he was the one to make the transition. Rajendra told him that at the time of the collision with the truck, the professor was thinking about the catastrophe theory and its role in the war. He was also thinking about the Battle of Panipat at that moment, so the neurons in his brain acted as a trigger and made the transition. The professor was in alternative world for the last 2 days. So this was adventure. Next we are going to read out Silk Road. Silk Road. Silk Road, written by Nick Middleton. Silk Road. The protagonist wanted to go to Mount Kailash. So our protagonist is wanted to go to Mount Kailash. Okay. God. Kailash. To complete the Kora. Kora is some kind of religious ceremony, religious rituals. He hired Satan to drive him up to the Mount Kailash. As a farewell gift, Lamo gave him a long-sleeved sheepskin coat. He took Daniel as his companion till Darjen. When they started the journey, Satan took a shortcut to the southwest, which was a direct route to Mount Kailash. They had to cross high mountain passes to reach their destination. Satan assured him that it would be no problem if there would be no snow. They crossed through few gazelles, a herd of wild They had to cross high mountain passes to reach their destination. Satan assured him that it would be no problem if there would be no snow. They crossed through few gazelles, a herd of wild asses, and shepherds tending the flocks. When they reached the hill, they passed dark tents which were home for nomads. He saw a Tibetan mastiff standing outside the tent as a guard. These mastiffs ran after his car as he reached near the tents. These dogs had large jaws. As soon as they entered the valley, they witnessed snow-capped mountains with rivers flowing which were blocked with ice. When they were riding through the hill, the turns became sharper and roads became bumpier. Satan was driving in third gear. The protagonist could feel the pressure in his ears. He held his nose, snorted to clear the congestion. He checked his wristwatch. They were at 5,210 meters above sea level. They reached their first hurdle, which was a road filled with snow. Satan threw dirt on the snow and drove carefully on that road. They assumed their journey. The protagonist felt his head was hurting. He took a few sips of water from his water bottle. They were still climbing up the hill. They reached at 5,515 meters above sea level. They stopped again, and this time the fuel tank hissed when Setar unscrewed the top. As the petrol was expanding due to low atmospheric pressure, Satan told them not to smoke around it. Soon in the afternoon, around 2 o'clock, they stopped for lunch. The protagonist's headache was gone by now. By late afternoon, they reached a small town called Hor. They reached the east-west highway again. It was the old route from Lhasa to Kashmir. Daniel got off the car and took a lift to Lhasa. Their car had a few punctures which worried Satan. He got them fixed, and the protagonist waited at a local cafe of Hor while having a glass of tea. He found Hor a miserable place. After a while, Satan reached to him, and they resumed their journey again. At night, around 10:30 p.m., they stopped at a guest house in Darchen to spend the night. The protagonist got ill and suffered from nose congestion due to the change in altitude and cold weather. He stayed awake all night. Next morning, Satan took him to Tibetan Medical College, where he consulted a Tibetan doctor who gave him a 5-day course medicines in a brown envelope. After taking a full day of medicine, the protagonist was feeling good. Satan left him thereafter, assuring his health condition. The protagonist was staying at Darchen. The place had a general store where Chinese cigarettes, soap, and other things were available. In the afternoon, the men gathered at a shabby table to play pool every day. Women would wash their hair in the narrow stream. Darchen had one problem: it had no pilgrims. According to the local people, in peak season of pilgrims, the place would be filled with travelers. He met a person in the Darchen's only cafe. His name was Norbu, who was a Tibetan working in Beijing at the Institute of Ethnic Literature of Chinese Academy of Social Science. He came to Darchen to complete the quota just like the protagonist. He was fat and found it difficult to walk. The protagonist decided to go on the pilgrimage with him. They hired yaks to carry their luggage. Narvu finally said it is not possible for him, while he collapsed across the table and laughed hilariously. His tummy was also too big. So this was Silk Road. Now next we are going to talk about Father to Son by Elizabeth Jennings. Elizabeth Jennings. Elizabeth Jennings. Father to Son. It's a very interesting poem. It is written by Elizabeth Jennings. So without wasting time, let's start. The poem is about the agony of a father. So the poem is about the agony of a father, where he rants about the unsettling relationship with his son, who is now a grown up. He shares that although they had lived together in the same house for years, he doesn't understand him. He doesn't know anything about him, and even if he tried to build up a relationship with him like the one when he was a small child, he was in vain. He further says that even if his son looks like him, yet he doesn't know what he loves. He acknowledges the communication gap and lack of understanding between them, and they speak like strangers. His son is in a different place which he cannot access due to the increasing gap. There is a silence between them. He is ready to forgive his prodigal son. He wants to accept him back to the house, the one which he always knew. He doesn't want his son to move around the world. He is longing to love him. The son finally speaks up and shares what he feels. He is at a stage where he cannot understand himself. He feels grief about the growing distance between them, and he is angry due to the grief and sadness. They put out an empty hand towards each other, but none of them holds it. They want to forgive each other, yet couldn't find a solution to the problem. So this was Hornbil. Thank you very much. See you next book.